men.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Igaga, and I am your host of the only show that is able to talk about all the things that you ordinarily will not talk about. Now, tonight, we're going to bring the fire to you because we're going to ask a very tough question. And the question is masculinity, or originally in its original form, the same as misogyny? Because some people have taken it out of context and are beginning to blend the two. Now, before we start, I need to put out a disclaimer because somehow I think maybe I need to sit out of this show. But whatever I'm going to say today will be my views and not the views of NTV or not the views of NTV men or any other man in Uganda or Africa or the rest of the world. Now,
you're thinking
all of a sudden you're not the boldest man ever.
No, I am. But the door slammed, so I didn't.
But now you have put the disclaimer.
Yes, because I know where this is going. Now, so tonight we have Dr. Shamim Matovu as our guest. You are ready?
Thank you.
I hope. Yes,
I
you
am.
are. Ah, fantastic. Now, Dr. Shamim Matovu is a cultural and behavioral expert and who has done quite a bit, especially in the corporate circles. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Over here. Now, to set the context of this conversation, lady and gentlemen. Now, in my opinion, again, with the rise of femininity, there has been this push against masculinity, or what it originally was. And there are certain terms which were normal, which are being termed as abnormal. Like, I'll give you a simple example. Like Banyankole men, like Kole over here, will be in a restaurant, and he will see a waitress, and he will say, call me that waitress. And you ask, which waitress? And you see, the one with the big buttocks, okay. And it's normal for them. It's very, very normal for them.
Viewers, please.
Now, I'm going somewhere with this.
With the buttons?
Now, somebody else would term that as offensive and very misogynistic. But facts is, does she have a big behind? Yes, she does. Has he called it out? And culturally, to the Banyankole, there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. We've seen situations where Colin walks in and says, speak to that woman. Okay, we will not say which woman. Okay. And it's not misogynistic, it is cultural. Now, to somebody else from a different culture, they may take that as misogynistic. So
we're not getting triggered.
Yeah, you don't need to get triggered, okay? So could this whole talk about misogyny simply be that we are taking cultures that are not ours and embracing them and now trying to erode our own cultures? Shamim, your thoughts?
Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. But I want us to start from the context you gave of Banyankore men, for example. When we talk about culture in itself, I want us to look at it from a deeper perspective of acceptable standards of living in our society. What is acceptable, what is unacceptable? So if you walked into an environment and you refer to somebody as the lady with the big bam, is that acceptable, irrespective of what tribe you come from? Now, for me, professionally, is also recognizing that these tribal sentiments are not, we are all different and we have our own ways of showing up, but I want us to speak of culture in a perspective of us living in a cosmopolitan environment and what we think is acceptable in society. Yeah. So in a normal environment where you go into a place, I don't think that describing somebody by their body or shape of their body is ideal, because it could not be an issue for one person, but it could be an issue for another person. Mm-hmm. But back to the element of masculinity and misogyny, I think that to start with, what is traditionally known as masculinity for men, we know of that in terms of our traditional settings. We know of fathers being the head of the home, as a provider, as someone who's securing the family, who is doing a lot more things to prepare for the family, right? So how do we cross to the other side as well? And I think that the challenge we have in the current setting is that there was a shift, that families are no longer the way we used to know them. Now, while you're growing up, you go through elementary school, you're thinking of a family as the father being the head of the home, the mother being the heart, but there are families today that are so different from that kind of setting, where it could be only father-led, no mother, father and children, but also, for whatever reason, there could be one that has a mother and children, but without a father, for whatever reason. And I don't want to go into the reasons because there's so many. So what does that mean then? Does that mean that also a woman will be masculine because they are taking responsibility that it traditionally is known to have been for men? Yeah. But there's also a man who is also taking the dominant state of traditionally being masculine because they're the provider, they are securing the family and all that. Yeah. How do we cross from masculine to misogyny when we want to dominate? So let's imagine that as a man, you are naturally built to be masculine, to be a provider, to be a protector. And I don't really care about the independent norm of independent women.
You don't care?
I don't, because you as a man are naturally built to be masculine, to provide, to protect.
That's toxic femininity.
No, it's not. We're getting to that. So how do we cross onto the other side? The crossing onto the other side is now being dominant in a way that puts the other person down. So when you call women names, when you control them, the extreme side of wanting to be dominant in a controlling way, in a demeaning way, in a way that is disrespectful. Yeah. That is the crossover.
Okay, interesting. Chris, dominance. Shamim has really talked about dominance. Isn't a man built to dominate?
In the Bible, in the beginning, God creates man. Yeah. Male and female, he creates him. That's how the Bible frames it. Man is male and female. And he says to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, or dominate it. The idea was not for man, male, to dominate man, female, which we're calling men and women in this case. The idea was for both of them to subdue and dominate the world, the things in the world. Fish, animals, money, land, property, whatever. Okay, so dominance was never meant to be of one gender over the other in the original setting. After the fall of man, from the biblical perspective, then God says, your desire shall be for, tells a woman, one of her curses was that her desire will be for her husband, not for all men, for her husband.
And that's a curse.
And she was never meant to have a desire for the husband, but one for God. But it's a bit convoluted, and I don't want to get deep into the theology of it. But I just want to say that that's as it was, or as it is. So that's the reason why after girls call men dogs, they want to get married to one of them.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. No, because there's a thing there to have a husband. It's just a thing that is in the ladies, okay? But the idea was never meant to be that men dominate the women. It's actually meant to be that men lift the women, that they speak over them, that they cherish them, that they celebrate them, okay? And that's why the picture, because from the biblical perspective, the first Adam was Adam, the last Adam is Jesus from the biblical perspective. So we see from the example of Jesus that he did not put down women, right? He elevated them. I mean, first of all, the whole story of Jesus is totally unbelievable to the people in the first century because women's testimony was never even listened to. So a woman comes, says, I got pregnant, it's the Holy Spirit. You're like, right? And you have to believe that Mary got pregnant by the Holy Spirit, okay? Then he rises again, the next most important thing in the Christian faith. And the first person who sees him risen is a woman. She goes and tells people he's risen, Mary. And I think that's Mary Magdalene. And the thing is that how do you believe the testimony of a woman? But God intended that both men and women would be taken to the original. So the Bible says in Christ there is neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither male nor female, but all are one. And what he's trying to say is that we need to see ourselves as two genders created in the image of God, right? With different roles, okay? The man has a role of leadership, okay? That does not take away from the woman. A leader and a follower can coexist well without one having, every time someone has to bang the table and say, I am the man who wears the trousers in this home, you're actually not wearing trousers. You have a problem.
Okay, very interesting. Now, Colin.
Are you wearing trousers?
I am the man. Okay, so
You feel you're in charge?
Man, you defined yourself very, very
well, according to Chris, that is not the case. Now, is there a chance that with the whole advancement, and I put it in quotes because I think we are going to end up going full circle, but the embracing of Western, the Western ideologies and all that, we, especially as African men, we are losing that fabric of masculinity where a man is a man and does man things.
What does that even
Peter, when you say a man is a man, does man things, what is that?
Plums, pineapples.
Gosh, not
What does that even mean?
Basically, when we look at what the traditional African man is,
So what are the man things? A man is a man and he does man things. What are they?
Leadership, first of all.
Okay, that's what is leadership? It's an abstract concept in which certain people excel at sort of talking about in the abstract, but in the real sense, for you as a man, as an African man, what does that mean?
It means you take charge.
Okay, yeah, but tell me.
You are a provider.
You provide the house.
Yes.
You make sure people in your house are fed.
Yes.
You take
Make sure they are
decisions.
safe. Yes.
You protect them.
Yes.
When you take out those four, what else happens there? What other man things are there?
You're present.
Yeah, you're a teacher.
Oh, Peter is answering.
Those things are not occurrent. They don't occur to Peter.
What do you mean they don't occur to you? I mean, you're a teacher. You're as a part of being a leader. You teach your what you call it, your family, and that's why, like for example, I've always said that one of the unfortunate things about a man is you need to know, because you become that point of reference, whether it's your wife or your kids. Guys expect you to know stuff.
Yes.
They expect you to provide solutions.
But think about the world in which we live now.
Yeah.
You're in a two-parent household, you can't know everything. You can't wake up in the morning and go out there and hustle and fight the world and then come back and also know everything. There will be expectations that you will know, but part of going through life is partnership, collaboration, letting other people lead, delegation. That's part of that story.
Yeah.
So I think I take issue with how you phrase the question, which is there a chance that we're going to get waylaid and stop doing man things, right? I think that, and maybe we need to sort of go back and say, the essential difference is you have come from a communal class society where you're hunter-gatherers, you're looking after everyone. The village helps you raise your children. Together as the tribe, we make sure everyone is taken care of. We take care of the elderly. We raise our children together. We go out and hunt. We make sure that when we harvest, there is some seed for next season. That dynamic has changed, and now you're in a different socio-economy structure, which is highly individualistic. It's sort of largely driven by you and the nuclear family, you and your wife raising your children. I think that because of the incentives of those different economic structures, it means that the idea of leadership is changing. So, I mean, your grandfather had 13 wives, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Yeah, with 50-something.
So he was seen as a leader. You have one wife. Are you less of a leader now? I am simply saying that your grandfather and his 13 wives and you and your one wife are not any much less different. But you're living in different economies, you're living in different structures. The incentives for your performance are different. And so where your grandfather is expected to have land so that his wives could come on there, have land, because they provided labor and they could raise their children, they could feed, they could trade. You now need to have a job and an agency and 65 jobs. Other jobs that you do as MCs, I don't know what, grave digger, like all the things that you do to make ends meet in order to be the leader that you think you are in your house.
All right, interestingly, and Jalo, you've been cheering from the side. You know, it's going to be very interesting to hear what you have to say. But we'll do that as soon as we get back from the break. Now, we are here at Sanga Courts having a conversation about the comparison between masculinity and misogyny. Is Jalo the chief misogynist? Well, some people say yes. We'll be right back after the break.
Men. Men.
Welcome back from the break. In case you've just joined us, we are here on your favorite show, and that is Men. And we are looking at the relationship between masculinity and misogyny. Now, this is your show. We want to hear from you. What is our Twitter handle, Colin?
NTVmen_UG.
Fantastic. Also, there's a QR code on your screen. Scan it, and let's have this conversation going on. So, Jalo, misogyny.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there probably do not understand the meaning of misogyny.
Misogyny is,
In your words.
in literal terms, is the
In
hatred
your
of
words.
women. Literally.
Yeah.
The hatred of women. Understand? They're a group of people that decided that men hate women, which does not make any sense. And I needed to define that so that you see the difference. For so many women, and I think we have had this conversation before, where we have alluded or they think that men at one point in time, sat down and decided to hate on women, which does not make any sense. Masculinity has evolved over time. Back in the day, it was divided by Neanderthal type of thinking, where it was dominance based on provision, right? You went out, you hunted, and that is why you are a dominant person. Dominance is just part of life. One of you mentioned that that you can coexist in I think it was Pastor Chris talking about, individuals can exist in an environment where you coexist. Why is it that in the animal kingdom we have a dominant,
Like an alpha male.
Yeah. And why can't we have it like,
So you want to be a bull with
like
many
you are a
cows.
bull innately, biologically you are a bull, whether you like
And you
it
want
or not.
many cows. You want to add on to the one you have.
If I can have many cows, why not?
Okay, I'll tell you what. Shamim, I'd like you to chime in from the cow perspective. Now, listen.
my
No,
God.
I meant because he said he's a bull.
But you called her a cow.
Why would you call her a cow?
This is the misogyny.
She
we're
doesn't
talking
look
about.
like a cow.
So Peter, I just want to say something, right? And if just to springboard up, and we'll come back and you can lead into the guest, but I think that it's a complex thing that you're discussing, this misogyny, because it's not just the hatred of women.
Correct. Yes.
It is an embedded indifference, right? And I've said this before. I've said that there are sections of society which you call homosocials. Homosocials are, and as a society, like, and you see it where you say these are men's sports, these are women's sports, but society never goes to see women's sports. Yeah. You see it in football. Women play as good soccer, they play as good basketball, but people don't go there. Because society as a whole becomes, it's the things that men do that are cool. And you don't notice it until even the people who don't want to be like men, the people who are, woman on woman, amongst them, they still identify that, one of them has to have a male component.
As a dominant person.
It doesn't mean that Chris, I know you're shaking, but it's not the lack of balance. I'm saying that the thing that he's talking about is not just active hatred, it's also indifference to the things that are feminine and things that represent the feminine energy in our lives. Over to you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yes and no. Could it be that it was packaged that way to suit the narrative that Colin has just given us?
Packaged?
Yes, packaged that way. Because you see...
Intentionally, yeah.
Yeah, because you see, reason why I'm asking that is society was functioning very well.
No.
In my opinion,
women had no rights, they had no sanitation, they had no education, they were just childbearing.
Listen, it was functioning.
It was not functioning well.
It was functioning.
Society
It was, you see, just that you've said society evolves. So now we are looking at it differently, such that we look at it and say, probably, can we be able to get more value from women? So, but then now what is happening is, and this again is just my opinion, we have elevated women to such a high point that we're now starting to drop the men. And then we're seeing men falling out from traditional men roles. Okay. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I do agree with what Colin says, that there's a level of indifference. And the level of indifference also comes into the expectations, the standards, so whatever you call it. In certain spaces, you'll find that the expectations of what a woman should do. Yeah. And my standards could be that I'm against that expectation. It's possible. But also it could be that there are expectations of what a man could do, but another man is against those expectations and has their own standards. So with that kind of shift in terms of how the world runs now, there's a lot that's going on. And I started by giving an example of the different kinds of families that we see today. And recognizing that shift also calls us to certain spaces. Now, sometimes, let's think of the traditional role as a man, as a leader, as a provider, all those things. If you think about the current times we live in, there's a lot of pressure on a man. Sure. A lot of pressure. And understanding that there are a lot of men who also have multiple secret families that we don't know about. So you're thinking of man A has a wife and 2 kids, but the reality is that he has 3 wives, okay, maybe 1 wife and extra other people.
But doctor, that has existed over time. That has not changed.
In
the time of Abraham, it has always been.
And I'm not complaining.
Tell the guests that their camera is there.
I am drawing.
They need to look in the camera.
They keep looking at you.
I want to look at you. And I realize that traditionally those things have happened, but I am bringing that in the room for us to understand that reality of what's happening on the ground as well. And so if you think about women, and you've talked about before women having to go and till the land of their husbands and stuff, today the reality on the ground is different. There are a lot of women that are working hard to get into workspaces, leading organizations, building businesses. And you just highlighted that in that realm we also find now the indifference that we're talking about is initially you would think that a man, or not even think, a man would be so much ahead. Today we have relationships or marriages where a woman is ahead. Now let's think about that indifference.
Ahead in what sense?
Ahead in terms of, their career, and financially they are making more money than the husband. So if you think of the traditional sense of a man as a provider, as a protector, sometimes that kind of dynamic causes an indifference.
I think you keep shooting yourself on the
hang on a minute.
Let me explain why you shoot yourself.
Okay, go ahead.
And I can't get this out of my head. When you say it, you don't care.
I don't?
You say those phrases like on this show, I don't care. And that is the sentiment of so many women. We're talking about toxic.
Conclude what I said. I said I don't care about independent women. And I put it in quotes for a reason.
You don't care about independent
women. Ask
women.
me what I meant.
What did you mean?
Good, we are talking.
I've set you up.
So
because I have a question. Right?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. There is this talk about independent women. And for me, professionally and also personally, where I sit, it doesn't mean that by a woman growing into spaces, perhaps through education and leading businesses and leading organizations, makes you not need support from a man. I think that that's a toxic way of seeing life. I believe that even as we create more spaces for women to thrive, to go to school, to build businesses, we can coexist together. So it doesn't mean that the fact that I have everything I've amassed, I don't need a man besides me. So for me, that's why I say I'm saying it does not mean that because I have excelled, maybe I'm leading an organization, I'm building businesses that are thriving, I do not mean I don't need a man. So that's why I'm putting this court of independent women. In a way, I just dislike it because that's where the misogyny.
Do you think that, yes, with the evolution of women in regards to provision and whatnot, do you think that the reason why we have this conversation is because women have failed to come down to conversations about provision, for example? Like in your conversation, you talk about me a lot.
Because it's me. So let me answer that.
Okay.
I don't think that women have to calm down. I think that we are seeing this differently. There are men who find themselves in a situation where they have to become defensive because of progression of a woman. But there are also men who understand that we're in different times and there's a lot more space for each one of us. So I think it's a matter of understanding where are we coming from and what perspective and what are we looking for anyway.
Now, there's this whole bordering, we just talk about toxic masculinity. And in my opinion, it's just the same way you can talk about having toxic poison. Because poison is poison. It's toxic either way by its nature. Can we just say what is perceived as toxic masculinity is just simply masculinity misunderstood?
First of all, I'm going to just say a few words and pack them in some corners. Okay, so the first is insecurity.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an insecurity problem. If a man feels insecure, most insecure men overcompensate for whatever is making them insecure. Okay, so if they're a very short man, you will constantly hear, "What, you're despising me because I'm short?" Okay, so because you're taller than me, you think that you can tell me what to do. That's insecurity. Okay. Another says, "Okay, so because I don't have as much hair as you, you're thinking." So there's things. Okay, insecurity. But if you own enough of yourself, you don't find a need to have to impose yourself on another. Okay, that's one. The second is if you're half-baked and you have gaps, right? And there's someone who shows up and they are the complete genuine article. Yeah. You are most likely going to want to punch some holes in them so that you are at the same level. Okay? So I feel that in some cases, when you find, and I think this is not a gender problem. I keep saying it's not a gender problem. Okay? It's a personal problem. Someone, after they've tried so hard, is operating at this level. Then they find another person who is operating at that level and they so happen to be a woman. Yeah. All right? It could have been a guy. Because it also happens among guys where someone, office politics and they're trying to pull the other down. So we are trying to define a thing that happens between human beings and genderizing it in order to create a certain gap that is unnecessary. But I will also say that the third thing is objectification. Yeah. All right? Sorry, today we're speaking too much English, but it's treating women like a thing. Yeah. Now that's not new. It's been around for a long time where men owned women. And Colin alluded to it. There was a point where women were treated like.
You've noticed when he talks about men owned women.
No, I'm saying Colin alluded to it. He said. The thing about Chris. No one is my friend. Yeah. So
hostiles on that side.
So what I am saying, guys, what I am saying is that there's a time where men looked at women as property. Okay, you have a slave, you have women, and this is not new. It's been around a long time. Okay, So the thing is that objectification needs to be corrected, because you see, if she is a thing to be used, a thing to be abused, a thing to be owned, and a thing that has no opinion, nothing to bring to the table, you don't need to love the thing. Okay, you can hate it, you can pee on it, you can be indifferent about it. It's a thing. So you will find that in societies where you find that in societies where say genocide has happened, the first stage or the early stages is framing of the people that you want to exterminate as things. They call them cockroaches. They call you must objectify,
dehumanize.
You must dehumanize and objectify the people you want to exterminate.
To own.
So if someone had a problem maybe with their stepmom, or a girl who refused their advances to them, and so they say, I hate women, and they start treating women a certain way because they didn't measure up to the girl, she said no. So then all women are a certain thing, just like some women say all men are dogs or whatever it is. You have a personal problem. This is not a gender problem. Yeah. We don't have this problem.
I want to just add on the thing that
we need to jump into a break, and then we're going to come straight back to you. We are here at Sandra Courts having a conversation about the weighing between masculinity and misogyny. And when we get back, we're going to also lean into what it means to men where mental health is concerned. We'll be right back after the break.
Men. Men.
Welcome back from the break. We're here at Sandra Courts having a conversation about masculinity and misogyny. Colin, I cut you short just before we jumped into the break.
So while Chris was explaining, I wanted to sort of put some very important context around this conversation. And I think that you have to step back 10,000 years and look at the human race, men and women cooperating, raising children, feeding them, women staying home and looking after the children, making sure the animal doesn't eat the children, while men go out and hunt and gather and bring back food. That's the experience for 10,000 years.
And it worked.
It helps society get where society gets, right? Men go to war, they die, you have shortages, certain societies accommodate and onboard polygamy not so that men can have wives, but so that all women can have the dignity of having families that can be provided for. Those are all stages of this story. Here's what happens in the 20th century. Two very big steps happen. In the 20s, the scientists unlock sanitation products, female hygiene products. What does that do? It takes away the enslavement that this shame has put on women, and so they're able to get out and come out and go to school and not have to hide at home because of this menstrual cycle and all that shame.
Menstrual hygiene.
Yes, that is the first step. That sends a whole bunch of women and girls into school, into universities, into higher education, right? And what does that do? What does this arc unlocks a whole, these women, they go into, they are the ones who build the bombs and factories of World War I, into World War II, they work and they become, the entire Western world sort of gets this, the workforce of the Western world doubles because of this. The second unlock is in the 60s when they then unlock contraception. Because what contraception does is it allows women to control when they can have families. They're no longer
to decide.
Yes, to decide. And that decision allows people to go to universities, to study longer, to delay when they can have children. And that then unlocks the phenomenal growth that we see in the 20th century. The conversation that we're having, Peter, is also a friction point between a 10,000-year-old practice and the brain that's embedded in society in both men and women, and the reality of a world where women can do, as she has said, sometimes even do more than men, but essentially playing at the same level. The tension points that we're discussing that you want to talk about are in a world where you can earn money, you earn 100 shillings, earn 100 shillings, how do we then discuss? So the gender roles remain. No matter what happens, the man cannot produce the child. But how do we then rebalance work and life in an environment where we're both working, we both are able to make money, we're both responsible for our children? So when you see those two major changes across the 20th century, the conversation we're having today in the 21st century for the man, because even in the 60s or even in earlier days, men would be unemployed. But when they were unemployed, we all suffered, right?
Yeah.
Today, when you're unemployed alone because your better half has a job, they continue to earn money. The thing that we need to talk about is the lack of empathy that's happening in society. So people still don't sympathize with the man who's going through a hard time because they're simply saying your job is to provide. What do you mean you don't have money? But I also suspect
Dr. Shamim will not date a broken woman.
Should we reframe that to toxic femininity?
Wait. So the thing that I want to say to women who sort of think about this is, like, they're just tasting what it's like to be on top now. They're just the class monitor for this period. But
no, but I think it's very disingenuous, and that, like, I'm reeling up here. It's very disingenuous to believe that the roles have not changed, and that is what I describe as toxic masculinity. That you're still describing men as providers, as protectors.
Boss, you are.
In a time, no, come on, and that is the problem that we are having in society.
No, that's your problem.
In a time where women are doing the same as you, they are providing.
No, but
they are protecting.
You are alone.
No, and that is toxic masculinity.
No.
All right, but that is what can I just say something? Now, Chris, before you dismiss Jalou, I think what Jalou is trying to say is that the world has evolved, and men have been, just as Colin broke it down for us, men have not evolved. Just hear me out. Men have been told to accept that the world has changed. Women have come up. Women are doing a lot of things. However, men are still expected to be the traditional providers. I'm just saying, listen, just
look, we are speaking English here. Speak to English. The roles have not changed.
No, let me ask you something, and this is a genuine question.
The environment has changed.
No,
the roles have not.
Peter, how do you expect a woman who's a GM, a CEO somewhere, to come and cook for you in the evening?
Oh yes, she will cook.
Listen, let's be honest, and that's the problem we're having in the
maybe in your house. Listen.
Let me ask you.
Margaret Thatcher. Listen, Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of the UK, and she went home and cooked.
Oh my God.
Miriam Matembe has been a minister, and she went home and cooked.
Now, but because we're running out of time, Shamim, we're going to need your parting shot, and I need to ask you something. Is it wrong for your man to call you my woman?
My property.
No. They're different things.
That's right.
I don't think so.
Says that's my woman.
So
you're his.
I don't actually think that it's wrong. And
So
why
you're
I
his.
say that is perception differs from whatever angle we see it. If that assertion comes with a bit of negativity, or you think it's okay for you to demean me, you think it's okay for you to call me names, you think, and then you say that's my woman, then that's a different thing. But there's also that bit of the aura that it comes with. If you say it with that aura, it's okay. However, also,
so just sorry to interrupt. So, as a woman, would you want to be your man's?
What does that mean?
Why are you trying to poke
what does that mean?
Because
we're in the parting shot. You're seducing a doctor.
She's fine.
You're just a pineapple farmer. Can you not see the difference in grades?
you've lost the point. But anyway, over to your parting shot as we wrap up.
So my parting shot. One of the things I do stand on strongly is the environment within which we live has changed. The roles haven't. They have evolved. And the evolvement of those roles is also independent for each household. You'll get into a house where men are happy to cook, and it's okay for them, it works for them. But also when we talk about, okay, there was a woman who is a GM, a CEO, and they have to go home to cook, there's nothing wrong with that. But also you will find that even as that role is traditionally known to be for a woman, there could be settings within the household where you have a chef. So I know what's on the menu. So that chef is preparing, I'm overseeing that, and it's okay. Then there are homes where the arrangement is that as a woman, you must be in the kitchen, you must do this. So all these things will be different from each person. What I really do not want us to lose thought about is the fact that the environment is changing and it continues to change. It doesn't mean that as much as women rise, men have to go down. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And I don't even think that discussing this, having this conversation is really about man and woman. It's about understanding the changes and the dynamics of the environment in which we live, that things will change. What happens when a woman goes away to, say, Switzerland for a conference and they're there for 2 weeks and then the man stays home, so the man won't eat? But also to recognize that sometimes when we are attached to this is how things have been and that's how they should always be, that's why we have a lot of challenges of men with mental illness. Because you can't talk about the fact that maybe your woman said something to you that was hurting, or you're financially going through stress because of different situations. Maybe your partner earns more than you do. And that shouldn't be a problem. Those realities are happening in this. By the way, there are a lot of women that are taking care of homes. They're just not saying and you know why they're not saying is because they have to protect their partner. So this pressure that is on men, yes, but also men tell their friends as well. So this pressure of putting men on the line of, oh yeah, you have to do this, it does not take away the responsibility that you must provide. You are the provider. That's what gives you respect in the home. But it does not mean that you can't get help when you need it. So I want us to separate this thing because it will cause a lot of problems. We don't want to be fighting with men. We should all be able to live in harmony.
Really? True.
Yeah, we should be able to live in harmony. I'm not talking about broke men. I'm talking about men.
And then you mentioned that. And then you mentioned that you don't want to fight.
Your party shot.
Wow. Tribalism, xenophobia, racism, misogyny, same thing. You find some reason to hate another human being, and because of that reason, you debase them, you put them down, you treat them like they are less than you. I believe that what's important is to have that type of humility where you own enough of yourself. How I would put it in church is where you are comfortable being who God says you are. And so you don't have to pull others down in order to have value, right? So I believe that this conversation is very elitist, if you ask me. I don't think it's a muntu wawansi type of conversation. I feel that it's not something I bump into on a daily. I don't find many men who hate women and use them as things or things like that. It's for me.
They use them,
my partition. For me, it's not something I find on the street or in the spaces where I live. But where it is happening, here's the thing. I just would like to say, love your neighbor as you love yourself, whether it's female or different skin color, different nation, different tribe, whichever it is. I think love wins the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let Colin finish.
Yeah.
So I think that these things emerge out of two things. As we've said, emerging economic landscapes. And I think that the other, so several things have led us here. So a changing economic landscape and people earning money and sort of thinking that now we are all equals and this is what that is. But also there's a crop of men who have not been desocialized from the old ways, right? And so and I think that inability to update their software and be aware that in the society in which we live, some of these ideas are archaic and they're old and they're outdated. That is one. But two, I guess, and I think more importantly is when you hear what Chris is saying, that in the society in which we are, some of these places, how you operate is a reflection of who you are, right? And so, but the problem is that when 3 or 5 men are gathered and they have those same ideas, those ideas then collectively reflect the views of that society. And so even though a society isn't misogynistic, if a certain critical mass of men in that society portray certain values or hold certain views, it is not that they will be this way, but the policies and directions and the overall atmosphere of that society continues to lead in that way. Having said that, I stand strongly on the idea of masculinity, and I stand on the idea of the fact that our masculinity is evolving, right? And part of that means, sometimes laying the bed, sometimes, paying the bills or living a soft life, giving yourself a spa day.
Cooking.
Not cooking, but that's a bit much. But giving yourself a spa day, so that, because the thing that we're saying is, that thing about leading, that thing about guiding, that thing about firmness, that thing about friendship, society, values, collaboration, those things continue to exist, and we must continue to live in them. Because as the world around us disintegrates, I think that masculinity is the bulwark that's going to protect society from all these invading values. I think that men still need to say, you know what, I've thought about what you're saying. And the thing that we used to do that our grandfathers did, it's not for us. So we will take this away. But this thing, this other value that we think about our brothers and our families, we are going to keep that. I think that's still a masculine role in society, to update the values and ways of how we live. And that's where I stand. I stand on that.
All right, cool.
3 things for me.
Your parting shot.
Yeah, my parting shot. Don't clean. Do not wash utensils. If it's toxic, let it be toxic, whatever, because, these individuals will not come the other side if they're given the opportunity. So do not clean, do not wash. Second thing that I want to talk about, toxic masculinity is men who have just refused to take care of themselves. That's how I define it, calm down. Take your, like you mentioned, take yourself to a spa date and whatnot. Commune with other men. You understand? That is what I define as that. In regards to misogyny, I don't believe that there are men out there who inherently, just sat down somewhere and decided to hate on women, and that is why, the birth of feminism. It created the birth of feminism to a certain degree. But I don't believe in that. But at the end of the day, as a man, love yourself,
Okay, well, great stuff. It has been an amazing time. We have had a conversation about masculinity versus misogyny. As we wrap up, men, do not go to the spa. Let your women go to the spa. Treat them. Men, don't go to the spa. Have a good night. God bless. And we will see you next week only on your favorite show, and that is Men.